You are back in the black hole of real estate, and this week we have a couple topics that have become super hot in the real estate industry. One, multi-billion-dollar lawsuits, and it's silly season for real estate agents and brokers to be changing companies once again. Now, let's kick off with this lawsuit about price fixing, commission fixing. A couple of the big box brokerages in the United States. Well, you know what? They got dragged into a lawsuit about price fixing, and pick the side that you're on. There's definitely some attorneys involved that were representing some people that felt they were wronged by what happened in the market the last few years. And I can build a case that on the real estate side, most homeowners willingly paid an agent to sell their house and pay a commission that they agreed upon, in writing. Commission's always negotiable, and those brokers decided to share some of it with other brokerages to find buyers for it. I mean, that's very common. It's worked that way, 100 years, and somewhere along the way, somebody felt wrong by that, and of course the lawsuit came about, and now the aftermath is that on the first round, it was over $1 billion in awards that were handed out. Some have chosen to settle, at least from what I understand. Others are going to appeal and fight, and I think the whole thing is probably going to last, let's say, a long time, probably years of appeals, and I don't see it going away quietly or quickly. And for many people in the industry, it brings up these questions. Is this the end of cooperation in the real estate industry? Should someone who lists a property no longer share in that commission with the people to bring the buyer? I'm not sure that that's the best thing for the consumer, and hear me out on it. Does it mean there might be changes in commission the way it's structured? Of course. Is there more automations in there? And can you sell it by yourself with technology? Maybe. Perhaps. And I think some will, likely move towards that and possibly accomplish that goal. But here's what I really think. I think the vast majority of people are wanting mass marketing for their property and the widest pool of candidates and buyers, and most certainly they are comfortable with a listing agent and a buyer agent bringing buyers. I mean, it's been proven that that's been a comfortable arrangement. With anything in life, there's always change, and I think change will happen with this. I don't really have a prediction of what's going to happen with it, though. I know this from the real estate perspective. If you are an agent and you're working with buyers, they have this thing called a buyer-broker agreement, and the buyer could absolutely pay a commission, and there would be some amount, is all I'm going to say, some amount, that would be due. And I'm not ready to say any numbers out loud, because then we're landing into that price fixing thing. So I'll just say something that's agreed upon between a buyer and their buyer agent. So where it gets tricky is, do all buyers have enough money to pay a commission to a buyer out of pocket and not finance it? And I do think this could harm an agent that might be with a low down payment situation with their client. A veteran who has a no money down and the ability to get help on the closing costs from the seller, it's not likely they have a large amount of money to pay a commission to a buyer's agent. So they can certainly go it on their own, but if they lack the knowledge or expertise in real estate, they could suffer in service. And the seller who wants to sell the home to that veteran, that would have, under normal circumstances, be willing to pay a commission to cover both sides of it, to make, help get the deal done, to facilitate that with money, that's going to shrink the pool of buyers for it. So it could affect the buyers and sellers' ability to get pricing and deals done. It certainly is going to affect the industry, how it's compensated, but there's been compensation across every industry, so nobody's crying the blues about who gets paid what. It's just going to change the way it's done. If there was some amount of money that was being available from a seller to brokerages and agents to get their home sold, and they decided on a way that they felt was equitable to share that and help the seller get the price they want, and also pave the way for buyers to have a lower barrier of entry and not have an additional fee on the way to purchasing a home, then that's something will still be agreed upon. And maybe the numbers change somewhat over time, whether they're higher or lower. I mean, that's to be seen. But it's worked really well for a long time, and this lawsuit certainly suggests that things will change with that. And they talk about some of the name brand portals of things that places you go search properties on, and there's probably going to be more lawsuits and more people dragged into it, more brokerages. But a company starts with a big Z, right? They've been getting data and selling leads back to realtors. They pay for those leads and then go sell the houses. It's been an arrangement that was different than 10 or so years ago, but it seems to have worked for a lot of people on both sides of the equation. That might disrupt that model a little bit as well. What I know is this: what's taken place over the last 100 years and primarily the last 10 years is likely to change. And the formula to help buyers and sellers use agencies and brokers to sell homes absolutely been disrupted through lawsuits and through technology. And I do believe that most people do want to work with a human to help them sell their house, and most want to work with a human to help buy a house and use that expertise that they're licensed for. There's a lot of videos on YouTube. I'm not sure that I probably could see how to do surgery. I'm probably not going to do surgery on myself. I'm probably not going to fix my car. I might do a little handy stuff, but I mean, things of high dollars and high expertise, when you're involving $250,000, $500,000, $1 million in a home, not everybody wants to do that on their own. So the terms of the work relationship and the business relationship will likely be altered and adjusted in some way. But my suspicion is there'll still be agents and brokerages and still people wanting to use them. And maybe some will advocate to use some of the other systems that will likely unfold as this lawsuit situation unfolds. But I don't think it takes place quickly. And I don't believe that it's going to be easy to come to a conclusion right now. I know that some of the brokerages, the big ones that are involved in this, are dug in. Some just like, hey, let me throw some money at it and make it go away. We'll see, but I imagine there'll be more lawsuits and not less in the months ahead. It'll be a huge distraction for those that are in the industry talking about it, when my belief is that what the people that are in the industry, that are licensed agents, what they really need to focus on is business relationships and helping their clients, because the rest of the stuff is largely out of their control. So I said it, we've talked about it, billions of dollars hanging in the balance right now. For the agents that I know that are going to do well in this market, they're just going to keep showing up to work every day and doing the best they can, because most have a passion for helping people, and the terms and the dollars will work themselves out at some point. But for right now, is it business as usual? Well, it's business, and it's unusual, and will likely continue for those that want to help others in the real estate space buy and sell properties. Now, as far as silly season, the end of the year every year is where the grass looks a little greener on the other side, and we always see agents going from one brokerage to the next. They go from a small brokerage to an independent brokerage to a big box brokerage, and I would say for an agent, at each stage of their business and their life and their career, each of the brokerage models most likely makes sense. If you're very knowledgeable in real estate and you're not looking to share a lot with the brokerage, then maybe working independently or super low service brokerage works. If you're learning or enjoy working in an environment with others, there's a lot of brokerages that are somewhat in the middle, where they have some support and a lot of freedom. There's other ones that are full on support below the broker, and then there's teams, of course. And I think each one of these models works. They always have, and they'll continue to work. But right now, people are saying, well, geez, you know what, last year was really good, this year's been a little off. Maybe it's the system I'm in. Maybe I need to pick a different system. And for some, it's absolutely the case. Maybe there's a lack of value or absence of opportunity. Maybe there's some truth to some people didn't work as hard the last few years because it was easy. And this year is more like 10 years ago, 2012, 2013, where you really had to grind it out and work hard, and every sale was a battle. And a lot of people that are new to the industry haven't been through that cycle and the ups and downs. There's times where you work harder, there's times where it's easier. And this year for many and most has been harder. So it could be that they're looking for an easier path, and that would be a reason that some would also change brokerages. And maybe it's you picked a percentage. Some are moving because the grass looks greener. Some are moving because it is greener. Some are looking for an easier path. And I believe that at this time you're going to see some massive things happening. I've got some friends in the industry that were number one at their company that just moved to a different company. And it wasn't a shock to me because I know a lot of the players involved in it. But when the number one from one company moves to a different company, and these are big, big companies, like worldwide companies, that's noticeable. And people in the industry are talking about that. So it's interesting that at a time when interest rates have dominated, the highlights, if you will, and the inventory has been a conversation. Recently, there's a big old lawsuit, and there's some jump and ship from one to the other that's going on that almost, for a minute, distracted us from thinking about inflation and interest rates and lack of inventory. Who knew that was going to happen? Well, at the end of the year, it was likely some of those things were going to happen, and I'll be watching and reporting on what I notice are these hot button issues as we get to the end of this year and on in spring and going into next year. It's going to be something that is worth watching. And I look forward to catching up with you next week on the Black Hole of Real Estate.